Every owner believes that the next million in revenue will fix what's broken. It won't, and chasing it can actually leave you worse off. More revenue is the answer we all default to. More leads, more jobs, more trucks, more people. For a lot of shops, it becomes the whole strategy. Get bigger and the problems get smaller. That's the lie, and it's an expensive one. I'm Chad Peterman, CEO of Peterman Brothers. In 15 years, I've helped scale our home services business from $5 million to $115 million a year. And I've hit every stage of where revenue climbed and the profits didn't follow. Where you add people and trucks and overhead and look up wondering where in the heck the money went. In the next few minutes, I'll show you why growth can leave you with less than you started with and the one number I watch above everything else to tell whether the business is actually healthy. Here's the story owners tell themselves. We've got a close rate problem, but if we could just get more leads, we'd close enough to make the numbers work. We've got a margin problem, but if we could just add another $500K in revenue, we'd cover the overhead. We've got a people problem, but if we could just get busier, the good techs would stick around. Unfortunately, none of that is true. More revenue doesn't fix a close rate problem. It just runs more leads through the same leaky process and costs you more money losing them. More revenue doesn't fix a margin problem. If your gross margin is 35% today, it will be 35% on a bigger number unless something in the operation actually changes. More revenue doesn't fix a people problem. It creates urgency around the people problem because now you have more jobs and not enough people you trust to run them. This lie is a seductive one because revenue growth does feel like progress. The top line goes up, the business feels busier, it looks like momentum from the outside. But the P&L tells a different story if you look underneath the revenue line. I can remember so many times over our growth where we were so excited about the revenue growth and never paid attention to all the numbers making up that top line number. We've got to look deeper. We've got to figure out why materials are off, why our labor may be misaligned, why we have certain overhead costs that aren't in place or are outrunning this revenue. All of these things are things that I have seen firsthand. They're mistakes that I have made and obviously worked to correct them over time. The goal is to get you ahead of the curve. Growth is not a strategy, it's an outcome. And it only shows up in the right place on the P&L if the operation under is solid first. Let me show you how more revenue can actually leave less in your pocket. Over the years here at Peterman Brothers, we have seen some massive jumps in top-line revenue. What that doesn't show is that it takes time for process and procedure and the training of people to actually catch up to that revenue growth. So while you're sitting there and celebrating the 30, 40% growth years, that's great. You've got momentum there, but you've got to have momentum at every line in your P&L. As you get bigger, you should hopefully become more efficient. But becoming more efficient takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, where revenue growth can sometimes overshadow that. The pattern is almost always the same. Revenue goes up, you hire to keep up with the work. You hire someone to manage the people you just hired. You add trucks. You add insurance on the trucks. You add software to manage the software you already had. The overhead line starts growing faster than the revenue line, and suddenly you're doing twice the work for the same or, in some cases, less money. Never forget, what you're selling is skilled labor. The moment you stop watching what it costs to deliver that labor relative to what you're charging for it, the margin compresses. It doesn't announce itself, it just quietly shrinks until one month the bank account doesn't look the way it should for a business doing that kind of revenue. Revenue is for vanity. Profit is for sanity. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. The number on the top line is the least interesting number in the business. What scoreboard are you looking at? Most shops watch the wrong numbers every week. They watch revenue. They watch jobs completed. They watch trucks rolling. Those numbers feel good to look at, and they tell you almost nothing about whether the business is healthy. They're activity numbers. Activity is not results. The shops I see stuck at a certain level are almost always shops where the owner can tell you the revenue to the dollar and can't tell you their gross margin, their overhead as a percentage of revenue, or their cost per book job without pulling a report they haven't looked at in 3 months. Those numbers are the scoreboard that actually matters. Revenue tells you how busy you are. Gross margin tells you how efficiently you're turning that activity into dollars. Overhead percentage tells you whether your cost structure can support growth or whether it's going to eat the growth before it shows up in your pocket. Cost per book job tells you whether your marketing is in fact working. You can run a busy shop and a broke one at the same time. Plenty of owners do it for years before they figure out which one they're actually running. Like I said, we've experienced some tremendous leaps in growth. What we've always come to find out is those leaps in growth have to be closely followed by process, procedure, efficiency. All of those things have to follow in order to support that growth. Growth eats capital. We have to bring in more people, more systems. All of these things have to be taken into consideration when we're growing top-line revenue to make sure that all the numbers will fall in line. They may not fall in line immediately. Sometimes you have to make investments in the business to see that top-line revenue growth. Where it gets out of control is when we only focus on that revenue and never stop to take a look at what investments we're going to need to make in the business to make sure that we can support that growth. Here's the numbers that I care about over everything else. First, booking rate. Second, cancellation rate. Are we booking the calls that we're paying for? And are people canceling? And why are they canceling? Is it an operational issue? Is it a call center issue? Is it a services issue? A number of things can lead to that. And those are why we are always looking at those two metrics first. That's where it starts. Then we want to look at conversion rate and average ticket. Are we converting the calls that we do get booked and we do get dispatched? Are our technicians utilizing the skills and the training that we gave them to provide top-notch customer service so that we can capitalize on the work that we are getting called out to do? Next up is more of a monthly metric, but that's gross margin. How efficient is our operation? Where are we at when it comes to managing our labor, managing our materials? All of those things have to be in line, ultimately dictating the price we should be selling at, and where do we need to work within the operations of the business to make sure that we have those dialed in. The last is EBITDA. We want to know, does our overhead structure support the operations? Are we fat in certain areas? Are we spending inefficiently? Do we need to audit our overhead to make sure that we've got everything in line and everything makes sense? All of these things are leading to us running a healthy and efficient business. The revenue number is one thing, but we've got to make sure all the other lines of the P&L do in fact support that level of revenue. If you don't know these metrics that I just talked about, find them right now, and that is the first thing to fix. Not your marketing budget, not your hiring plan. Pull these numbers together and look at what they're telling you. Where do you need to improve? Where are leads and jobs leaking out of your funnel? Don't get me wrong, growth is the right goal. I'm not saying don't grow. I'm saying grow on a foundation that can support it, because revenue without margin isn't growth. It's just more risk at a higher price. The next million in revenue isn't the answer if the operation underneath it isn't ready to handle it efficiently. More leads through a leaky funnel cost you more money. More trucks with thin margins mean more overhead you can't afford. More revenue on a weak foundation means a bigger, more expensive version of the same problem. Fix the operation first. Watch the right numbers. then grow. Revenue is a lagging indicator. It tells you what has already happened. The numbers underneath it tell you what's about to happen. Start reading those. If this hits close to home, drop a comment with the number that you're going to start tracking this very week. If you found it helpful, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. If you want to connect further with me and my team, click on the link in my bio to schedule a call with us. I'm Chad Peterman, and I'll see you next time.